Hello and welcome. Here are news stories making the rounds at this hour. Taiwan unveils homegrown submarine. China warns of South China Sea exercises. Russia alleges Western aid in Black Sea attack. Czech government to purchase 24 F-35 fighters. And Vietnam sentences activists to 3 years over tax. On Thursday, Taiwan launched its first ever domestically built submarine, an accomplishment the island democracy's leader welcomed as a major milestone as Taipei works to increase its military deterrence in the face of rising threat from Beijing. President Tsai Ing-wen presided over a ceremony at the submarine shipyard in southern Kosion City, where the diesel-electric vessel was officially named Narwhal in English and Heikun in Mandarin, which can be loosely translated as sea monster. The submarine is an important realization of our concrete commitment in defending our country, Tsai said. It is also important equipment for our naval forces in developing asymmetric warfare strategies. In the past, many people thought building an indigenous submarine would be an impossible task, but we have made it, she added. The ceremony was a noteworthy personal moment for Tsai, who unveiled a flagship defense strategy to build the first domestic submarine shortly after taking office in 2016. Taiwanese defense chiefs hope the submarines will help in making it far harder for a potential invasion by China, which claims the island as its territory and has wrapped up its saber rattling in recent years. Details about the ship's size or competence were also not revealed during the ceremony, which was also attended by Sandra Odrich, Washington's de facto ambassador to Taiwan, as well as the representatives from Japanese and South Korean missions in Taipei. Tsai said the naval's submarine project was a top priority of her administration. With the addition of Narwhal, Taiwan will have a total of 3 submarines by 2025. In our house, 2 Dutch-made submarines that were first commissioned in the 1980s. Taiwan earlier has said it plans to build a total of 8 indigenous submarines. Chinese authorities have issued a navigation warning over planned military drills in some parts of the South China Sea. The warning will be in place from 6 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. and from 6 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. on September 28th, the Guangdong Maritime Safety Administration said. Military exercises will be conducted in some waters of the South China Sea and navigation is prohibited, reports said. It did not elaborate on the location of the drills. China claims almost whole South China Sea under its controversial 9-line. In recent months, tensions have increased with the Philippines, whose claims overlap with China's over the Second Thomas Shoal and Scarborough Shoal. Both are within Manila's exclusive economic zone EEZ, defined under the United Nations Convention on Law of the Sea, UNCLOS, as largely spread in 200 nautical miles, about 370 kilometers from shore, within which the coastal state has the exclusive right to explore and exploit. The Philippines Coast Guard caught a 300-meter floating barrier installed by China that it said was blocking fishing boats' access to Scarborough Shoal earlier this week, which Beijing seized from Manila after a month-long standoff in 2012. Late on Wednesday, the Chinese Coast Guard disputed that version of the events, saying the barrier had been deployed on Friday when a Philippine vessel entered the area illegally and was removed the following day. Wang Wenbin, a spokesperson at the Chinese Foreign Ministry, said, "I would also like to reiterate once again, Hungyang Island is China's inherent territory," claimed at a regular press briefing, referring to Scarborough Shoal by its Chinese name. Manila refers to it as Bajo de Masinloc. The rocky outcrop is a prime fishing spot and has been the site of contention for years. Both countries claim sovereignty over the shore, which lies about 120 nautical miles, about 222 kilometers from the Philippine island of Luzon, and 594 nautical miles, about 1,100 kilometers from China's southern island of Hainan. China has maintained a Coast Guard presence there ever since the 2012 standoff. Brunei, Malaysia, and Vietnam have also claimed parts of the sea near their coast and have reported incidents of harassment by Chinese ships. Early on Thursday, in a separate report, China also reported numerous bombers from the Southern Theater Air Force, which covers the South China Sea, held nighttime exercises on Wednesday. The report did not elaborate on precisely where the drills took place. Now talking Russia-Ukraine war, Russia accused Ukraine's Western allies of helping plan and execute a missile raid on the Russian Black Sea Fleet headquarters in the annexed Crimea Peninsula last week. Western reconnaissance data, NATO countries' satellites and spy planes were also used in the attack carried out by Ukraine on the fleet headquarters, Moscow Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova said on Wednesday. There is no doubt that the attack had been planned in advance using Western intelligence means, NATO satellite assets and reconnaissance planes, and was implemented upon the advice of United States and British security agencies in a close coordination with them, Zakharova said at a briefing. The obvious aim of such terrorist acts is to divert attention from the failed attempts of the counteroffensive by the Ukrainian armed forces and to frighten people to stir up panic in our society, she said. Moscow has continually alleged that the US and its NATO allies have become involved in the war in Ukraine by supplying weapons to Kyiv and providing Ukrainian forces with intelligence information and helping plan attacks on Russian facilities. Unconfirmed reports that Storm Shadow missiles, which have been provided to Ukraine by the United Kingdom and France, were used in the missile attack on the fleet's headquarters in Sevastopol on Friday. Zakharova's criticism of the West followed comments made on Tuesday by Dmitry Medvedev, the deputy head of Russia's Security Council, who said the arrival this week of U.S.-made Abrams battle tanks in Ukraine and a pledge by Washington to supply Kyiv with an indefinite number of long-range ATACMS missiles will push NATO closer to a direct conflict with Russia. Friday's missile attack on the Black Sea Fleet headquarters in Sevastopol was just the newest against aims in the Crimean Peninsula, which Russia illegally annexed from Ukraine in 2014. Crimea has served as a major hub supporting the invasion of Ukraine and had progressively come under fire by Ukrainian forces who have vowed to see the peninsula return under Kyiv's control. Ukraine said the missile strike put a large hole in the major building of the fleet headquarters and that 34 officers were killed, including the fleet's commander, Admiral Viktor Sokolov, and more than 100 Russian personnel were wounded. The Czech government has approved a plan to buy 24 US-made F-35 advanced fighter jets in a deal valued at approximately $6.5 billion, the largest defense contract ever signed by the Czech Republic that will see the country suggestively improve its military proficiencies and integration with NATO. Petr Fiala, Czech Prime Minister, said according to reports on Wednesday that the first of the supersonic stealth fighters will arrive by 2031 and the country's military will have all 24 planes at its disposal by 2035. The first F-35s will be ready in 2029 and our pilots will start training with them in the United States, then Fiala said, adding that the F-35s will solve the future of our tactical air forces for dozens of years to come. Our defense, it is important to boost our ties with NATO allies, he added. In acquiring F-35s, we are telling our allies that we take the defense of our country seriously and that they can count on us, he said in a statement. In comparing the capabilities of the aircraft and their service life with the price, there is no better solution for fulfilling the task of the tactical air force of the Army of the Czech Republic for the next decades, he said. According to reports, the purchase of the F-35s will be the biggest defense contract ever signed by the Czech Republic. The U.S. State Department approved the sale of the F-35 jets, munitions, and related equipment to the Czech Republic in June amidst the country's plans to replace 14 leased JAS-39 Gripen fighter jets from Sweden that are currently used by the Czech Army. Czech Defense Minister Jana Karnochova said the state will pay 150 billion Czech crowns, that's $6.47 billion for the aircraft by 2034, a bill that includes the costs of the aircraft, training of pilots, ammunition, upgrades of the Kaslav Air Force Base in Central Czech Republic, and fuel. A member of the European Union and NATO with a population of some 10.5 million people, the Czech Republic has provided substantial military aid to Ukraine since Russia's invasion, including aircraft, tanks, howitzer artillery, armored vehicles, and ammunition. Still on the news on fraud charges, Vietnam has sentenced prominent environmental activist Hong Thi Minh Hong to 3 years in prison. According to a report, Hong, the founder of Change, a now defunct environmental campaign group, was convicted after a one-day trial in southern Ho Chi Minh City. She was found guilty of dodging closely $275,000 in taxes linked to Change, her lawyer Nguyen Van Tu said. This conviction is a total fraud. Nobody should be fooled by it, said Ben Saunton, co-director of the 88 Project charity. This is yet another example of the law being weaponized to persecute climate activists who are fighting to save the planet. The United States and a number of human rights groups had expressed their concerns about Hong and the crackdown on Change when she was arrested in June. In advance of the trial, Human Rights Watch HRW urged the Vietnamese government to drop all charges against Hong. The Vietnamese authorities are using the vaguely worded tax code as a weapon to punish environmental leaders whom the ruling Communist Party deems a threat to their power. Phil Robinson, HRW's Deputy Asia Director, said in a statement, the government should stop punishing activists for peacefully advocating action on climate change and for green policies and drop the case against Hong Thi Minh Hong. Hong, 51, founded Change in 2013 to tackle problems related to climate change, pollution and endangered wildlife. She secured international recognition for her campaigning but abruptly shut the organization down in October 2022. Here are more stories. Burkina Faso military stops coup, arrest plotters. Authorities said a coup attempt against Burkina Faso's military rulers had been thwarted by the country's intelligence and security services, authorities have said. In a statement on Wednesday, Burkina Faso's military rulers said the army officers and others had planned to seize power and plunge the country into chaos. Officers and other alleged actors involved in this attempt at destabilization have been arrested and others are actively sought. A spokesman for the ruling military Rimtalba Jean Emmanuel Ouedraogo said in a statement without providing details. The newest coup attempt occurred on Tuesday. According to the statement, the military government said it will seek to shed all possible light on this plot and that it regretted that officers whose oath is to defend their homeland have strayed into an undertaking of this nature. The country's military prosecutor later said that 4 people had been arrested and 2 were on the run. An investigation has been opened based on credible allegations about a plot against state security implication officers, the prosecutor said. The military, earlier this month, prosecutors said 3 soldiers had been arrested and charged with plotting against the ruling military government of Captain Ibrahim Traoré, who seized power in September 2022, 8 months after an earlier military coup had overthrown the democratically elected president Roch-Marc Kabore. Burkina Faso's capital city Ouagadougou appeared calm on Wednesday evening following the military's announcement of an attempt to topple it. On Tuesday, several of pro-military government demonstrators took to the streets of Ouagadougou and elsewhere to show their support for the country's military rulers following a call from Traoré supporters to defend him amidst rumors of a mutiny circulated. Gabon's Prime Minister unveils national dialogue plans. Raymond Ndong-Sima, Gabon's military-installed Prime Minister, on Wednesday outlined plans for a national dialogue to be organized next year, which he said will pave a way for drawing up a fresh constitution. Speaking at a press conference almost a month after a coup d'etat which ousted President Ali Bongo, he said an appeal for contributions towards the dialogue will go out from next week. Ndong Sima said he aims to put forward a summary of these contributions by the end of January, which will provide the working basis for the national dialogue to take place, hopefully, between April and June. Gabon's co-leader and now-transitional president, General Brice Oligui Nguema, has vowed to hand back the country to civilian rule with elections after a transitional period. No time frame has been given, however. The coup brought an end to close to 60 years of control of the oil-rich Central African country to the Bongo family. The family's dynastic rule created widespread discontent, with critics saying they did little to share Gabon's wealth with its citizens. Ndong Sima, a French-educated economist and outspoken critic of Ali Bongo, had served as his prime minister from 2012 to 2014 before resigning. He ran against him for president in the 2016 elections and again this year as part of an opposition coalition. There are more stories right after this timeout. Please do stay with us. You're welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. Stories from Nigeria says federal government explores ways to avert labor strike. The federal government has reportedly started moves to stop the looming nationwide industrial action. According to multiple sources, government is determined to use every means possible, including carrot and stick, to achieve the aim. On Tuesday, the Nigeria Labour Congress (NLC) and the Trade Union Congress (TUC) at a joint emergency meeting in Abuja resolved to embark on an indefinite strike with effect from October 3rd, following federal government's failure to tackle the suffering and other socio-economic hardships occasioned by the removal of subsidy on premium motor spirit (PMS), commonly known as petrol. On Tuesday, September 5th and Wednesday, 6th, NLC had embarked on a two-day warning strike to force government to confront the mass sufferings of Nigerians, especially workers. Yesterday, at a joint press briefing, the unions, which reunited after a momentary parting of ways, asked their state chapters to mobilize for protests across the country with effects from October 3rd. It also directed all affiliates and state councils to instantly start mobilizing for street protests and rallies. However, multiple highly placed sources said, according to reports last night, that the federal government was doing everything to make sure the strike does not hold. As part of the move, sources said President Bola Tinubu may announce an additional palliative package during his Independence Day speech on October 1st. He is scheduled to present the workers' relief package during the traditional presidential speech on Nigeria's Independence Day. This could not be confirmed, however, at first time. On elections, Guba poll in INEC alarmed by insecurity in Imo, Kogi State. The Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) has stated concern over the growing level of violence and insecurity in Imo and Kogi states is not only unacceptable, unnecessary and worrisome, but also capable of scaring potential voters. Malam Mohammed Kudu Haruna, the INEC National Commissioner and Member Information and Voter Education Committee (IVEC), raised the alarm yesterday at a one-day workshop organized for media executive in Owerri by the Commission. Continuing, the INEC National Commissioner indicated that efforts were at improving and easing access for persons living with disabilities and other marginalized groups to participate in elections. He said, and I quote, "The Commission has provided braille ballot papers for visually impaired voters, made available magnifying glasses for people with albinism, and introduced enlarged posters for voters with hearing impairment. We have gone further to integrate into the voting procedure a process that accords priority voting for persons living with disabilities, vulnerable people like the elderly, pregnant and nursing mothers." Welcoming the participants earlier, the Imo Resident Electoral Commissioner, REC, Professor Sylvia U. Agu, explained that this engagement has been carefully packaged by the Commission to enlighten the media and her executive on the guidelines, processes and procedures ahead of the November 11th, 2023 gubernatorial election in Imo State. While soliciting the cooperation of media practitioners, Ago also appealed to eligible voters to come out and vote for their choice candidates during the elections. And finally, on the news, organ theft reveals flaws in Nigeria's healthcare. The rising cases of poorly managed surgical procedures, occasionally driven by a hidden purpose to steal vital organs, have uncovered the gaps in Nigeria's healthcare system. The crack has stoked distrust in the quality of local healthcare over the past years, adding to an approximated $1 billion to $10 billion that Nigerians spend on outbound medical tourism annually. Following the kidney harvest of middle-aged Kehinde Kamal at a private clinic in Nasarawa and the removal of a portion of the intestine of a 12-year-old patient, Adebola Akim Bright, at a private hospital in Lagos, questions have risen about why poor practices flourish within the health system. The lack of trust is leading to a rising push for more patient protection, such that a patient can get a clear receipt of their vital organs through tests before and after a surgical procedure. A professor of public health at the College of Medicine, University of Lagos, Akin Oshigbogun said, according to report, that by standard practice, patients have the right to consent to a surgery and can request for a post-surgical scan overviewing their system to be duly sure of what has happened to them. But of course, it costs money. That is the only challenge in this environment, because even to go for the surgery, many people are struggling to find money for that procedure. Then to find more money to do a scan before and after can be tasking, he said. Regarding Akin Bright, whose circumstance is still being probed, both the private and public hospitals that manage him have been fighting over who should take blame for a procedure done wrong. Medical regulatory bodies are less trusted and known to respond more quickly to misbehavior, often after fatal failures may have been recorded at quack centers that open their doors to unsuspecting public members. According to health professionals, the ethics of the profession do not let any doctor or any professional to remove any body organ for a non-professional reason, even though this misconduct still happen under the radar. Instead, people should raise an alarm and notify agencies such as Pharma when they notice signs of quackery. Olufemi Fashomade, a professor of medicine at the College of Medicine, Lagos University Teaching Hospital, noted that not all doctors can perform a surgery, but this has been ineffectively regulated in Nigeria's health space, he said. He also called for bodies such as the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria, Pharmaceutical Council of Nigeria, Nursing and Midwifery Council of Nigeria, and the Federal Ministry of Health to do more to sanitize the healthcare practice in the country. A recap of major stories says Taiwan unveils homegrown submarine. China warns of South China Sea exercises. Russia alleges Western aid in Black Sea attack. Czech government to purchase 24 F-35 fighters, and Vietnam sentences activists to 3 years over tax. That's all on the news. Thanks for watching. I am Lois Reki.